What's up, fellow developers? My name's Tyler Potts, and in today's video we're going to be taking the node.js video we created yesterday, using that API to build a Vuex application. So we're going to be combining our node.js backend with a brand new Vuex front end. Before you start this video, you need to either check out the node video, or you need to have an API you're going to be hooking it up to, and you need to know how to use that API. I'm going to go through a lot of things. We're going to be using Vuex, we're going to be using router, and we're also going to be using Tailwind CSS. You don't have to use Tailwind CSS for this tutorial. You could choose any sort of way you want to style it yourself. But if you do want to follow along, I'm going to show you how to set it up anyway. So let's get started by starting our Vue project. Okay guys, so before we get started, we need to go into our VS Code where we last built our Node.js application. And we need to install course. Now, I've already gone ahead and done it, but I'm going to show you, there's only 2 lines you need to add in, and I'm going to show you how you install it. So I'm going to open up my integrated terminal, and then for you guys, you need to run npm I course. That is it. Hit that, enter. It'll install it. As you see, mine should be really quick. It's free. Done it. Bam. And then once you've got that installed, you need to do const course, require course, just like up here. So pause the video, add that in. And then you need to go down here where we've added our middleware, and we're just going to do app.use course and call the function inside of the app.use. Now, that is all you need to do. The reason we need to do that is to prevent an error that's going to happen when we set up our local host, 2 local hosts. Unless you want to put this on a web browser or whatever, this is the best way to get rid of the course issues. So there we go. And let's just close this. So that's it. That's all that done. So now let's create our Vue app. So how we're going to do this is run Vue, create, and then we're just going to say, I'm just going to call it YouTube because I'm already in the Vue quotes folder. I just want the actual YouTube tutorial version. So Vue create YouTube. Now I'm just going to smack enter, and we're going to pick some options. Okay guys, so we're going to manually select features. Then we're going to scroll down to the router, hit spacebar. We're going to hit Vuex, hit spacebar again. We don't need a CSS pre-processor because we're going to be using Tailwind CSS, so that should be fine. Let's see, I'm going to turn it on. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just going to hit enter. I'm going to use version 3. I'm then just going to hit enter, 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 enter. There we go, done. Now we're going to wait for this to install, and I'll see you once it's done. Okay everyone, as you can see, it's now finished. So let's cd into our project. Cd just stands for change directory, by the way. I don't think I've ever explained that. I just always say cd and people are like, you listening to music, man? But cool, we got that. So we'll cd into our YouTube. Now we need to actually run a command. So if we go over here, we can now, I'm on the Tailwind CSS docs, the Vue free fight. Now we're not doing a fight app, of course, but this guy can still help us install it. So if we go down, you can see down here, there's this command here. So we're going to copy this, and we're going to paste this in. And we're going to hit enter, and that's going to install Tailwind CSS, Post CSS, and also Auto Prefixer. Now, this is all Post CSS 7 compatible, because Vue 3 is not compatible with Post CSS 8 as of today. So let's just clear, not as of today, up till today so far. It may change in the future. Hopefully it does. Let's clear that. So that's all installed. Next up, it asks us to generate our package or our configuration file. So let's just run this, hit enter, and that's going to generate postcss.config and tailwindconfig.js. Now let's open this up in VS Code by doing code dot, hit enter, and this will now open up for us. Perfect. Oh, excuse me. Full screen for a second. Now you can see here we've got our package JSON, what now includes Tailwind and Post CSS. And we've also got this and this. So there's 2 things we need to do. So if we go in here, we can scroll down. You can see we've got all the settings and this settings. But if we scroll down here, you can see we've got this purge here, right? Now what purge does is allows it to remove. It will remove it will search all the documents, all the files for these files. So HTML, Vue.js, JS, TS, JSX, TSX, and it will search for the class names we use. So it will search for, let's say if we use a class such as background color, background purple 500, right? If we use background purple 500, it will know that we're using this one and it's not going to remove it. All this does is it will delete all the unused CSS, which is amazing. It makes the file size a lot smaller, means your production website will run a lot quicker. So now we've got that installed, we've got post CSS over here. So we've got Tailwind and auto prefix. So I'm pretty sure that's all what needs to be done in there, but we now need to create a new file. So this is the stuff we need to copy, and we need to create a new file. So in source, in assets, I'm going to create a new folder called CSS. I'm then going to right click, create a new file and call it tailwind.css. And in there, I'm just going to post this. Now this comment here is important because Chrome currently has a bug. As you can see here, there's a bug in Chromium. So we need to include this to fix that bug. Now that is all set up and done. If we scroll down, it's going to tell us we need to include it or import it in our main JS file here. So down here, we just go underneath, import, and then we just need to give our file name. So we need @/ or // sorry, assets CSS, and then tailwind.css. Save. Let's come out of this and let's see if this works. So let's open up our app view. As you can see, this is what we got. Let's first of all close the U. First of all, let's run our server. So we're going to say, let's clear this. We're going to say npm run serve. Hit enter, and that's going to start up our development server. We also need to start our our node.js, server. So what we're going to do in here is we're just going to run npm start, like we did before in our previous video. Again, if you haven't seen the previous video, you kind of need to for this tutorial because I'm going to be basing it off connecting to that API. So the link will be in the description. Don't forget to go check it out, guys, if you haven't already. But again, it's not definite. There's a lot of features we do use in here. So if you're just here for like all the features we use, then that's fine as well. So there we go. So that's started as well. That means that's running. And then we've got this one on port 8080. So let's go back. Let's open up localhost, not on 3000, please, on 8080. And here we go. We've got this little application. Now let's see what's working. So let's click in here. Let's go up here. And let's just say for the nav, we just want to say class. Background pink, and as you can see, we've got IntelliSense, so it tells us what we need. Let's just go for the purple. Bam, you can see that's working perfectly. So our Tailwind CSS is now perfectly set up, which is awesome. So as you can see, we can close post config, can close that, and then we've got this. So let's just remove all the styling because we're not going to be using any of this. The whole point of Tailwind CSS is to make this a little easier for me. Let's go to views. Let's go to about. Let's delete. Well, you know, just delete the about. We don't want that. Let's go to home and let's just remove these two. We're going to remove all of this and we're also going to remove all of this. Bam, gone. Boom, dead. It's gone, guys. It's gone. Don't worry about it. It's gone. Don't worry. Shh. It's gone now. It's gone. I'm a bit hyper today. My bad. Okay, guys. So that's all set up for us now. Let's just open this up here. Let's go back over here. Yeah, we're going to have an error because we need to remove this logo as well. We don't need it. Let's go into components. Just delete that whole folder. We're not going to be using that. Router, index.js. So now let's just remove the view route here. Save, go back, and that should fix our issues. There we go. So we've got an about and a thingy link. We're actually going to change that about link. So go back to the app. We're just going to say, we're going to change this to all, and we're going to say to all quotes. And that's where we're going to go to find all our quotes. Let's delete that little bit there. And that should be fine for now. We're not going to need that. We'll style that up in a minute. Cool. Okay, perfect. So let's start off by just setting up using Tailwind CSS to set up our app here. So let's just say class padding equal 3, which is 0.25 rem each time you go up a number. So that'll be 1, that'll be 1.25, so on forth. So padding 3 is about 15 pixels, I think, if I'm doing it right in my head. I'm not 100% sure, I'm not going to lie to you. And then on here, what we're going to do is we're going to break this. We're going to go in here, we're going to say class is equal to, we're going to say inline block. Inline block. Then we're going to add mx2 to this. So we're going for a bit of margin space. We're going to add padding y, which is padding top and padding bottom, of 4. We're then going to give it a padding x of 2. No, padding x of 4 and a padding y of 2. As that would look really weird. We need text color to be white. and we need the button to be rounded. So you've got different rounded here. We're just going to use rounded, maybe medium. Let's see what that looks like. And then we can literally copy the... Oh, and we also need a background. Let's go for purple. I think purple 500 might look cool. We'll see. We'll see. So now we can literally copy this class, and we can paste it on here. Now we can also go and create a new button. There you go. So you can see our buttons are looking great, as you can see there. But we're copying and pasting the same code twice, right? So let's go into our assets and Tailwind. Now under here, we're going to do apply. Oh, sorry, we need to create a class first. And we're just going to call this button. And now we're just going to apply, and let's just paste this, but remove the quotes. Now we don't need all of these. We don't need the MX2 because that will not work. But if we add all of these, add our semicolon at the end here, and then we go into our app and we just remove everything but the MX2 there. So let's just duplicate. Let's go MX-2, and then we could say button. Now we have all our styles from Tailwind stored in one button because it's a component we're going to be reusing. As you can see, nothing has changed. Alright guys, we got the 150 zoom in. Cool. So we've got our router set up and our buttons. We've got our buttons set up and all of this. Now we actually want to create a container inside of this padding 3. So we're just going to go dot class. We're going to say mx-auto dot max width screen size of large, and then we're going to give it a dot flex dot item center and dot justify center. Now all those classes do are going to align it, and we're going to also basically, this is a container here. These are the classes we use for a container, and these are the classes we're using for flexbox. And now if we go back, you can see they're now centered buttons. So this is how good Tailwind is. It's really useful, and it's really good in component-based systems. So when we're creating components, you won't have any of these classes on specific components. Instead, you'll have them all in your components, so you don't see all this messiness in your outer files. But for this one, we're just going to keep it here. So there you go. We've got that, and that's all set up. So this is our app view done in here. Now, we're going to be using our store here, our Vuex configuration a lot. The reason being is because that's where we're going to do all our major functionality. It's where we're going to get our random quote. It's where we're going to get all our quotes. It's where we're going to use some special methods called getters to actually filter our quotes to find the right ones we want. So let's get started. So in here, we need to add two things to our state. We're going to need a quote because that's going to be the quote which we display on our homepage. And then we're going to need to get the quotes, which is going to be an array of all our quotes. So once we get our quotes, we're going to store them inside of quotes. Now to do that, we need to create a mutation. We don't actually need actions or modules for this one, but we do need mutations. So inside mutations, let me zoom in a little as well for you, and we'll close that sidebar for now. Inside mutate refers to the state up here in our Vuex store. So people who haven't done Vuex before, what Vuex does is it allows us to pass props and state and mutations and functions throughout all our components. So instead of saying script do all this, we can actually just use our components from here straight in our application by going in here, and for example, let's just log something out. We'll say store. Oh, we need to put these in the brackets. Store dot state. Let's just say dot name, right? Let's go create a name in here. So we'll say name, and we'll just say Tyler. Let's go back to our application. Once its state is defined but never used. Oh, sorry, it's here. Log state. There you go. And as you can see, it displays my name as Tyler from the Vuex store. So there's no more messing around with, let's say if we go down to home and we need something in here, there's no more messing around with passing props around. We've just sorted that problem by adding Vuex. Let's just delete that because we don't need it. And also let's remove it from here, else we're going to get errors. Cool, so that's all good. Let's go back into our get random state. Now, if you remember in our last video, we set up some routes using node.js in Postman. So what we're going to do is we're going to do fetch, and one of the routes we set up was HTTP. Oh, HTTP, not S. We ain't secured that yet. Host, and it's on port 3000 because if we go to our node program, you can see it's listening on port 3000. So let's go back. Then we do / and our API route is called quotes. And then we had a /random to get a random quote. Now to get this, we need to, it's actually a promise-based system. So we need to go then, we need to say res is equal to res.json. And then, because we're just going to convert it to JSON, and then we're actually going to get we're going to get data from that JSON, and we're going to do this. So we're going to go in here and we're just going to say if, well, actually, for now, we'll just say state.quote is equal to data. And there you go. So what we've done here is we've set up our random quote. So when we click a button, we're going to be able to pass a random quote into here. So let's go to our home view quickly. And in here, let's just make a button. So what we had was .button before, if you remember. And let's just say get random quote. Save. Let's remove this script for now. And we will need it later, I believe, but it's fine for now. So get random quote. And let's add a click event to Vue.js. So @click is equal to using the same as onClick, but for Vue.js. And now in here, we're going to run a $store.commit, not commit, don't commit. And then let's copy the name of our mutation here, and we're just going to paste it in there. And now this is going to call that function, which will get this random quote, which will put the quote inside there. So now under here, we're just going to say, let's just print the quote out. So we're just going to say $store.state.quote. Hit save. Let's go back. So you can see it's empty at the minute. But if we hit get random quote, we can see our data is stored straight in there. And if we click it, we get random ones. But sometimes when we click it, actually I just clicked it twice there, we got the same quote over again, meaning we sometimes going to get duplicates. So it's going to look like we aren't actually doing something. So look, again, it happened again there. So you guys probably thought, oh, you didn't click. I did click, it just didn't do it. So to beat that, we need to go into our state. Let's remove this, and we're going to say if state.quote._id is not equal to data.id. We're going to say state.quote is equal to data. So all we're saying here is if this is not, all we're saying is if the quote is the same or not the same as data, then we can store it. We'll change it. Else, we're going to go this.commit, and we're going to say get random quote. So all we're doing here, right, is we're checking if it's different. If it's not different, then we're going to run the function again until it is different. So it's just going to keep running until we get a completely different one. Go back, and then get random should always be random. So just to make sure we can see that working, we're just going to say log duplicate. And then that way, if we open up our terminal, Control-Alt-I, and hit get random quote, when we get one which duplicates itself over, you can see it said duplicate. It actually duplicated twice here, so it means it found this one, or the one prior to this one, 3 times before it actually found a new one. There you go. So that is what's happening there. Now, we can limit the call to get random quote, but I'm not going to do that in this video, because I think for the purpose of it, I want to show you how you use this type of fetch command here. We also need a second command here, and that is get all quotes. Now, what get all quotes is going to do is we're going to get the state, and we're going to do fetch http localhost 3000/quotes, and that is the route we use to get all our quotes. So now we need to do the same as we did before. We got to go we get a response, and then we need to convert that response into JSON, and then we get data from that, and the data we get, we're going to say state.quotes is equal to data. And that way, we've now got our fetch, we've got our then, and we've got our then data, which allows us to basically it's stored all our quotes. And that's all we need to do for this one. But we do need to head into app. We need to create a script. Tyler, I said a script. There we go. And in our script, we need to import a couple of things, because we're going to need to use some things. So we're going to say import useStore. Now, what useStore does, it allows us to get the store inside of Vue 3. So kind of how, so before obviously you'd use this $store when we're using the options API, but we're using the composition API, meaning we need to import from Vuex useStore. Now let's create our setup method, And inside our setter method, we need to do const store is equal to use store. Just like this. And now this is equivalent to using in the options API, this $store. Kind of how we use $store up in our markup up the top there. So in here, we're then going to need to import stuff from Vue. So we're going to say import on mounted from Vue. Oh, whoops. That's got to be outside. On mounted from Vue. Now this, again, options API, or the composition API here. And all we're going to do is say on mounted. We're going to call this arrow function. And when we first mount this app, we want to get the, we want to basically call the function store.commit. And we're going to say get all quotes. So, oh, that's not right. There you go. And now let's just put under here, $store dot state dot quotes, and let's go back. And as you can see, if we just keep refreshing, we'll get all our quotes are being pulled right here and dropped in here in an array. Perfect. So that means our quotes is now working. So when we first launch this, we just need to call onMounted to get our store. Perfect. So let's close that Tailwind CSS there. Let's close the routes for now and this. So back in the home view, right? So we've got this. It's looking all right. Okay, so let's go. Oh, wrong way. So we've got this. Let's remove this second bit here. And let's actually style this up. So let's copy this button, close. Let's create a new mxauto.maxWidth screen_large. So this is just going to set the max width of this diff to the set size of a screen large. You've got different ones. You've got MD, you've got small, but we'll go use large for this tutorial. And then we're going to do flex item center dot justify content. Oh, justify center. Sorry again. And then hit enter here. Now in here, we're going to pass back our button. Actually, saying that, we don't need any of this. I actually did that wrong. That's where we need, right there. We got our button, right? We then need to create another diff in here. Sorry, my bad. In here, we need to say flex.itemCenter.flexColumn, which is going to make it columns, and then we'll say justify items center. And paste that in there. Also, I've just realized justify center is not going to work. It needs to be justify item center, I believe. Or maybe it's just, no, I think it is just justify center. There you go. Save. Come back. And as you can see, that is now central. So our buttons look like they're all in line. Perfect. Now, under here, we're just going to create a paragraph tag. And in here, we're going to create a span. And in the first span, we're going to have our store.state.quote.content. So this is going to be our store content. Now I'm just going to wrap this in quotes, so we have quotes wrapped around it. And then we're going to add a break tag in here. And then we're going to add another span. Now in this span, we're going to have a hyphen. And then we're going to do the same thing again, but this time we're going to get the author's name. So we're going to say store.state.quote.author. There you go. So now we've got our span, state, quote, content, and our store, state, quote, author. Now, there's different for everyone's APIs. If you're using a different API, you've done it differently, then I've obviously used how you've done your quote, how they return, and how you use those. For this video, though, we're going to be using the one we did in a Node.js video previously. So now, let's create a class here, and we're going to pass MB6. We're then going to say MY10. We're then going to say text 2 times as large, just 2 times extra large. We're going to say text center, and then we're going to make the text gray. Now on the second span, we'll go to class, and we're going to set it to text gray lighter. Save. Let's go back, and as you can see, it just shows like that. So that doesn't look too great. So let's do a if here. So on this text, we're going to say -if. Now what if does is a directive by Vue, which allows us to make a conditional if we should. So we're going to say type of $store.state quote._id is not equal to undefined. If that's not equal to undefined, then sure. So if we go back, you can see it's disappeared. So if we hit get random quote, there you go. Sometimes good things fall apart, so better things can fall in together. Marilyn Monroe. Perfect. Now that looks wrong. Now I'm not sure why it looks wrong, because the styling should be slightly different. I'm sure my classes have worked. I feel like I've broke something. It's fine. Oh, sorry, text grey. I've just realised it needs to be text grey like 500. There you go. And this one needs to be text grey 300. Maybe 400. There you go. That's done it. I used the wrong thing there. So to get random quotes, and there you go. We're just going to get loads of our random quotes. I've added a few more, as you probably can see from when we did it in the last one. But now we get a random quote. That's awesome. But when we go to all quotes, we want to see all our quotes. So let's go and set that up. Let's close down this home view. Let's open up our side tab here. And in our router store, well, actually, in our views, we need to create an all.view. And we'll just do the simple view template here. Save that for now. Go back to index and let's import all from ..views. That's the wrong way of spelling views. And then all.view. So now under here, we're just going to do a comma and we're going to create a new path. And now in this path, we're just going to say /all. We're going to say name is all quotes. And then the component, component is going to be equal to all. Hit save. And then also, no, I think that's it for now. That should be good. Yeah, perfect. So we've got this, right? We've got this and we've got this. So let's just close the router view and then go back into all. So now we're in all. Let's just do a test, say all, or do a paragraph of all. Now, let's go back to our browser, and as you can see, we're on all quotes, and it says all. If we go back home, we get the random burn. Here, it's all. Perfect. So let's go back to all quotes. Let's go in here, and let's actually add some classes. So we're going to add a .p3. We want padding 3 around everything. We're then going to do mx auto .max screen large, and then in here we're gonna have a h1 which says all quotes. We're then gonna have a padding with a padding wire 4 diff at the top, and then we're gonna have a router hyphen link, which is what we're gonna loop through. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do a v4 on this router link. So let's drop this down. Oh, well, let's do it here first. v4 is equal to parentheses quote I in, and then we're going to say $store.state.quotes. And then let's just quickly, so you see it's red, that's because we need to add a key. So we're going to say our key is equal to our quote._id. We're going to say our 2, so our link is going to be equal to, and we're going to do backticks here, and I'm going to say /quote $$ and then we're going to pass through our quote._id again. So this is going to be our link. So our link will be, if we go back to the app here, what's it saying here? Mix spaces and tabs. Wait, what? Here, tab size. Convert indentations to tabs. Okay, hopefully I cut that out, but I'll probably forget. So here we are. Cool, that should be done. I is defined but never used. That is fine. We actually need the I, and we need to go into, we need to create a new diff, and we're just going to say, well, we'll just do a .class here. And now we need to actually do this colon here, because we need to bind this class. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, we're going to do a backticks again, and I'm just going to say quote py2, and then I'm going to do one of these, and we're going to say if I modulo of 2, so if it's in, if defy modulo of 2 is equal to 0, we're going to return background grey light, else we're going to return nothing. And there you go. So that should be done right, but we have an error. Let me just have a look. Oh, that should be a question mark, not a less than sign, more than sign. Cool. So we've got that. So that's now in. Now inside of our class here, we're just going to add a paragraph, and it's going to have a class equal to MB6 MY10 text LG text center and text gray 500. So this is actually going to be the exact same as our home route, this paragraph here. So we actually could copy this whole thing, copy, remove this, put this in here, tab it out correctly, and remove the fee type, fee if, because it won't appear if it doesn't exist. Put that onto one line. We actually don't need the MB, we just need the MY off about 5 maybe. Text 2 times, and there you go. We're actually going to change text 2 times just to LG. And I think we're going to remove the break as well. Actually, no, we'll keep the break in. It looks cool. Let's leave that in like that. So let's remove that as well so it looks a bit better. Cool. Bring that down. Let's go back. Mixed space and tabs. Where are these mixed space and tabs again? Bloody flabberblab. Let's go back. There we go. So all quotes should actually be displaying all quotes now. v4 quote I store state quotes. We've got a key quote ID 2. We then got our class. We may have an error. Here we are. Cannot use in operator. v4 quote I in store state quotes. That's correct. Our key. Wait, if we use the in somewhere else accidentally. What line does it say this on? This says bundler. Oh, cool. There we go. That's all done. But in here, we don't need to get this. So we've got a store state content here, right? We actually need to change this just to quote.content and quote.author. Save, go back, and there you go. So that's looking good. One thing that's not working is our modulo here. So here, $I modulo 2 is equal to 0. Then if that's the case, we print background gray, background gray light, background gray 500, maybe 100. There you go. So now you can see it's showing up correctly. So we've got our home. We can get a random quote. We can go to all quotes and we can pick a specific quote, let's say Marilyn Monroe, and then we get this link here. Now what we need to do is create that route. So let's close view all. We don't need it anymore. We don't need the app either. Let's come in here and let's go to view all. Actually, we need to go to our store first. Let's do our store. We need to create a method to actually get a random quote or get the quote, a specific quote. So we actually need to create a new feature of Vuex, or not a new feature, just we got to use a different feature. So we're not using state or mutations. Instead, we're going to create a getter. And in this getter, we're going to create a get specific quote. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the state, but then we're also going to get the ID in a callback of the state. And what we're going to do is we're just going to say return, and we're going to say state dot quotes dot filter, and we're going to say q dot underscore ID is equal to ID, and we need to get the first one because its filter obviously returns returns an array. So we just need to get the first one because there's only going to be one with a matching ID, and if there's multiple, we only need one of them. So here we go, we're getting the state. So now we can use this. Let's go to a new view. Let's create our quote.view. Now let's create a view boilerplate, and let's make sure it's tabbed. And then we'll just do CPY3 like we did before. Now in here we could do, we could do getters or store.getters.function name and call it here, but that's going to get messy. So now this time we're actually going to use the script down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to import a couple of things. We're going to need to import the use route from view router. Now all this does is allows us access to the route information. We're going to need to import use store like we did in the last one from Vuex to access the store, and then we need to import reference and on mounted from Vue. So in here we just need to set up our, we need to get our setup set up, and we just need to return nothing for now. Just return that. Now up here we need to get our route, so we need to say use route. We then need to get our store, so we're just going to copy this, paste this, say store and store. Then we need to create a quote reference, which is just going to be an object, because we need to be able to store our quote somewhere. We're then going to get on mounted, and we're just going to call this hook. We then need to set a timeout. Now the reason we need to set a timeout is because in our Met app we call get all quotes, and in our store we return state.quotes.filter. Now this isn't going to work if our quotes haven't been fetched yet, and because it's a fetch request it may take some time to get it, so we need to give it some safety. So we need to say set timeout arrow function, and we need to give it a set timeout of about literally 100 milliseconds for this API, but depending on the speed you may have to up that or whatever. You could add a loading screen here, so a little loader that shows it just spinning until it's ready, and then we're going to just do quote.value is equal to store dot getters. Let's just move this side. Dot get specific quote, and now we need to pass through our root dot params dot id. Now we actually need to set up a specific route path because this route actually does not exist yet, and we need to make sure we can pass through a id as a parameter. So there's our parameter here, and we need to make sure we pass that through as a parameter, and then all we need to do is return quote. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to print out this quote. Oh, if I can get it right, quote to screen. So this doesn't show anything because we need to set it up in our route. So let's go set that up. So go to our router, and in here we're just going to go boop. We're going to say path is going to be equal to, and as you saw before, it's quote and then colon ID. Colon is how we tell Vue or pretty much anything, even like node.js, as we did in the node video, that this is a parameter. This is the param we're going to be using. So check this out. Then we need to give it our a name, and the name is going to be single quote. Single quote. We're going to give it a component, and let's just give this component our quote component. Now we need to go import this, so we need to say import quote from /views/quote.vue. And now we don't need that. And now that should be working fine. So let's go back to let's close this, let's shut that, and let's go back to our quote here. And now this should be working. As you can see, it gives us the Marilyn Monroe quote. If we go somewhere else, let's say get the Tyler Pottsman, that's great. Now the reason we need to set timeout, because obviously you're thinking when you land on home, it's already going to have generated all those quotes, right? But let's say if we wanted to share a quote, so let's say Marilyn Monroe. Let's copy this and open it up and paste it in a new tab. As you can see, it works here fine. But if we remove this set timeout, watch it prove me wrong now, it'll be instant. Copy this and paste that in again. You can see we get nothing. That's because all the quotes wasn't rendered, and now we should have an error saying it doesn't exist, but because we're only passing the quote and not an actual, we're not doing like quote.id. Copy, paste. We now should have an error. Yeah, you can see because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist yet, which isn't good. It means it's not there. It doesn't work. It's not there. That's why the set timeout gives it enough time to actually generate the quote. Now, a safer way to do this is probably to set a is not to set a timeout, but set an interval in an if statement that say just check if the quotes are there. If the quotes are more, but we're not going to do that for now because this works fine. So now let's actually style this up. So let's create an mx auto dot max width screen lg and hit enter. So that's just going to be our container. We then need a h1, which is just going to say class text free.xl text center. Then in here we just need to do quote.author. Now this is going to error. Well, again, if we do this way, okay, it's working fine. It's ignoring me. Then we need a paragraph tag. Class MB. Well, we don't need MB. We just need my10, a text of 2XL, and a text center with a text gray 500. Now this is just going to be our quote.content. And there you go. You can see here, that's too much spacing. Let's remove some spacing. Let's say 5. There you go. So now, as you can see, when we go to all quotes, we can select quotes and get the full quote on screen. If we want specific quotes, we can go home, get a random quote. We can, let's say, just grab another random one. As you can see, it now looks great on all. On all of them, it's working. All our routes are working. Everything is working. So what we went through today is we've gone and sorted out using store with the composition API. We've used router with the composition API. We've used different routes. We've used an API in our store. We've fetched random things. We've used mutations and getters and state. That is awesome, and I hope you've learned something new from this video. If you have, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video, basically, guys. But yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys, and super motivating quote by Tyler. Peace out.